educator, Sarah Allison. Hey Sarah, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And today it's a special day, and it is?
World No Tobacco Day.
World No Tobacco Day. I don't recall ever seeing anything about World No Tobacco Day. Is this something new?
No, it's actually been around since I was born. 1988, the World Health Organization created a campaign to help encourage smokers to stop smoking just for 24 hours and just see how it feels, and then kind of evaluate where they want to take their health goals, and then every year on May 31st.
Seems like as a society we're reducing our risk of tobacco to the stats.
Yeah, definitely since the 80s it's dropped drastically. We still have a pretty high rate in Jackson though. 20% reported smoking in our last community assessment, which is about the state average, but that's still 1 in 5 people.
Well, here at JTV, we have no smokers on staff. Staff 15 or so, and that's probably the first time this year because we've had people who've quit.
Yeah, amazing, and that's something to celebrate.
Well, you brought some slides to I think show some of the progress that we have made in reducing tobacco use.
Yep. So, though, like I said, it's a national or an international campaign. The World Health Organization created it, and so these are some of the campaign advertisements that they created. So
beautiful. Those are lungs, of course.
And our theme this year is lung health, tobacco and lungs. So within 2 weeks of quitting smoking, your lung function increases. After 10 years, your risk of lung cancer is that of half of a smoker.
Just like that.
Yeah, your body's amazing at repairing itself. Children who breathe secondhand smoke are more likely to develop asthma and have more severe attacks, asthma attacks. And it's a huge cost, 8 million people every year for just tobacco smoke, but 1 million deaths for secondhand smoke.
Really?
Yes, it's just as harmful, I would say, as inhaling it yourself.
And that's proven because when people first started talking about secondhand smoke, it was kind of, well, we think and it's possible, but
Yep. There's plenty of evidence that shows just inhaling it from somebody else smoking is just as harmful.
Well, I would imagine with all the progress we've made in creating smoke-free environments, like here in Michigan, restaurants and public, that's got to help.
Yes, it does, and I think that's why we've seen such a big drop. That law, the smoke-free air law, went into effect in 2008, and we had in Jackson a 30% smoking rate, which is crazy, and I think it's really helped shift that and bring that number down.
It seems like you don't see as many people smoking. It's probably because we're like in restaurants, we'd see it all the time.
Yeah, yep, I agree. And I think more people are aware of the harms and the detrimental effects that smoking has, but we've also seen a shift from regular cigarettes, combustible lighting cigarettes, to e-cigarettes, which is also cause for concern. And especially in our youth, we have 23% of high schoolers reported using an e-cigarette. And we don't know all of the harms of e-cigarettes yet, but there's enough evidence coming out from studies showing that, brain damage, lung health, heart health has all been affected.
Well, the companies that make the e-cigarettes, most notably Juul, they do appear in their early years to market to teens by the flavors.
Yes.
That they, bubblegum, tutti frutti, cotton candy.
Yes. And the great names. We actually did some surveys with some middle school and high school students and asked if they smoked and if they vaped, used e-cigarettes, and if they did, why? And a lot of them were because of the flavoring.
Is there any evidence that shows that for example, teenagers who start with a Juul or some others e-cig move on to real cigarettes?
Yes, there's quite a few studies that have been done that have shown exactly that. And even with the students that I've talked to, they said, and I asked them, do you also smoke combustible cigarettes too? And they say, yeah, sometimes we'll just switch over to Black and Tans, or they give me like the actual brand that they've used, which is the real danger. So even though e-cigarettes are marketed as a healthier alternative to combustible cigarettes, what we've seen with adults is that they've gone from combustible cigarettes to e-cigarettes, and some have quit, but some have gone back to regular cigarettes. And with youth, it's almost always they will start with an e-cigarette and move into a combustible cigarette, which with all of those chemicals is way more harmful.
Well, and it's the opposite intended progression.
Yes, absolutely. And unshockingly, maybe, Marlboro in December bought a huge share of Juul. So they are, with intention, making it easier for youth to move to their product.
And the tobacco companies, the companies that own the tobacco companies, in addition to moving investment into e-cigs, are claiming to promote smoke-free and dropping use of tobacco.
Yep, and raising the age to 21. And I think at the surface level, that's great. But a lot of what we've seen in the field is that those laws that they're promoting are weaker than what they could be. So while they do promote raising the age to 21, they don't promote removing flavors, or they don't include e-cigarettes in the definition of tobacco. And we have to have those things in order for those laws to be effective.
And the flavors, even if they aren't sold with flavors, at any tobacco store or smoke store, you can get flavors
Yes.
to add to your thing, right?
Absolutely, yep. It's dangerous.
So obviously lung cancer, that seems to be the biggest danger, the most deadly disease from regular cigarette smoking. But I was surprised to see some stats about tuberculosis, and that's the disease that you really don't hear that much about. Is it making a comeback?
I don't think it's necessarily making a comeback, and I think we only have maybe 1 or 2 cases in Jackson even that we have tuberculosis, but it's, your body's a lot more susceptible and like receptive to your immune system's compromised. Basically, when you smoke, you're taking a lot of things in that you shouldn't be taking in, and your body has to react to that. So you could be put in a position, and this is more of a global issue because the United States doesn't have a lot of tuberculosis cases, but if you're in a crowded space and you're smoking, India, China, the crowded spaces, a lot of people smoke there, and they have high rates of tuberculosis.
What are the other diseases, the other health concerns besides the lung cancer of regular cigarettes?
Yeah, so you probably have seen the commercials for emphysema and COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. Those happen a lot later in life. A huge concern is for youth and children and infants. So moms who smoke while they're pregnant, their children are often born with underdeveloped lungs. And if you have an underdeveloped lung as a kid, it's going to be a lot harder to catch up. Sports are going to be more difficult to do, being active. That kind of stuff. And kids that live in homes with smokers, young kids that live in homes with smokers often develop asthma and respiratory problems.
So lung health, that's probably the biggest impact.
Absolutely.
But heart, obviously.
Heart, obviously, atherosclerosis, where your arteries and your veins kind of get really hard and they're not as malleable to pump blood. Huge issues. I mean, even deep vein thrombosis can be an issue, stroke, all of that, just from cigarette smoking.
And we know the e-cigarettes have some risks, but we really don't know. Some we do know, like they explode.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Right,
Yes.
Noah?
Uh-oh.
But do we have some evidence of what possibly the detrimental health issues are with e-cigs?
Yeah, actually, I just read an article about brain damage because of
Really?
e-cigarettes. And I think a lot of it is because there are still harmful chemicals in it. So they've tracked formaldehyde, which is used for dead body preservation, and has shown to be detrimental to pregnant women. But there's lead, which lead is huge right now because of Flint and Jackson. We have high rates of lead poisoning too. Lead, nickel, all of these harmful chemicals that are still in there. And if you're a kid using this, your brain's not ready for any of that.
No. So World No Tobacco Day, World No Tobacco, but what about other things that might be ingested into the lungs, like marijuana smoke?
That is a huge concern too, and I think we're still trying to figure out all of that, because without it being now that it's legal in Michigan, but without it being legal federally, it's hard to study any of that and use federal funds to study that. But we know, specifically with pregnant women again, who smoke, their kids that are babies that are born have a lot of developmental issues too.
Yeah, because a lot of the proponents of marijuana use recreationally or medically say that it's never killed anyone.
No, it might not have. But I think we need to look at the full lifespan too with that, and quality of life. So while we could support, medical marijuana use for a cancer patient, well, they already had a low quality of life because they're on chemo and they have cancer. But maybe for back pain, we could look at a different method that might not be as harmful.
Are there ways that the Jackson County Health Department or others can assist people who want to quit tobacco?
Yeah, Jackson has a ton of resources available. One of them that's a pretty simple one, it's the Michigan Quit Line, and it's just 1-800-QUIT-NOW, QUITNOW, and that is, they actually have a lot of things going on. So you can either have a phone counseling session, or they have texting, and they have an app, and they take all ages. So you could be 9, you could be 99 and call in still. Allegiance Health has a smoking cessation service that's free, and Lifeways Community Mental Health also has one.
Yeah, because a lot of the medications, even over-the-counter medications for stop smoking, are expensive.
Yes, and this is a good way, and actually, I should plug this, the Quit Line is offering 8 free weeks of that medication. So if you call through September, you get 8 weeks of that.
All right, and that's 1-800-QUIT-NOW. All right, well, I hope we've educated some people, and maybe a few people have decided to quit for today.
That would be great.
Thanks for all the info.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
The health educator with the Jackson County Health Department on World No Tobacco Day, Sarah Allison. Still to come on